Hi everyone, it's Diane. Welcome back to another session of So Here's What I've Been Thinking About. And this week, what we're thinking about and going to talk about is speaking with impact, getting your message across. One of the most important leadership skills, I believe, is to learn how to do that. And the great news is that it's a skill. And the great news about skills is that anybody can learn to be better at it through practice and through preparation. So let's dive into our topic today. I think you'll find it interesting, and hopefully it makes you think a little bit about your own speaking and how you persuade, inspire, change someone's mind, sell an idea, um, connect your team to a larger purpose. All of those things are important in a leadership role and as we develop our leadership skills. And so learning how to speak with impact and make a difference, it becomes really important. There's so many opportunities to express yourself publicly. And particularly when you're working with other people, it's really important that you think about how it is that you want to get your message across, what your message is. That's equally as important, if not more important. Um, and the three P's: preparation, practice, and performance are the aspects to public speaking and to really articulating well what it is that you're thinking. And again, we're not talking exclusively about public speaking today, although that's an aspect of it. But when you think about the opportunities that we have to speak to other people publicly, that can take the form of a one-to-one meeting. It can take the form of a team meeting with 3 people, 10 people, 20 people, 50 people. It can take the form of a casual conversation, an elevator pitch, if you will, or a hallway conversation, or meeting up with somebody on an airplane, who's sitting beside you and ask you some questions, and really being prepared and ready to articulate and to get your message across. So let's do some exploration of that topic. I think that we probably can all think of times or circumstances when we really want to make sure we get our message across in an impactful way. And sometimes that goes really well, and you're like, yes, I just nailed that. And sometimes you think, oh man, I missed that opportunity. I just didn't say what I wanted to say, and I wish I could have that moment back again to be able to articulate. So we'll talk about some preparation for that. And I think too, when you think about leadership and it relying on communication, how else do people gather around a common cause and understand how their work is connected to a broader vision or broader mission? And in leadership roles, we need to connect the dots for people, I believe. We need to help people to see that what they're doing today is also connected to a bigger picture. And that's actually a key to employee engagement. So if we can't articulate that, then we leave people to their own devices to do that, and who knows what conclusions that they may or may not come to. And we all have thoughts, at least I have thoughts swimming around in my head. And if I don't practice getting those out or thinking about them in a logical way or starting with why, which we'll talk about in a minute, all of those thoughts just keep swimming. And when I'm called to express my thoughts, especially in situations where I don't have control over when I speak and when I don't speak, that's really important. So getting those swimming thoughts into some sort of logical order so that you too can articulate. So let's talk about some pointers or some things to think about. I think that's probably a better way to frame it. The first thing is that if you're not crystal clear, nobody else will be. And that, gosh, sometimes we think out loud and we're not really clear, but we're thinking out loud to get clear. That's very different than trying to get a message across when we're not clear about what the message is. So the first thing to think about is the intention. Why is this message important to you? Why is it important that you communicate it to the audience? Why is it that you're even discussing this? And so intention is really where everything starts and, quite frankly, everything ends, because so oftentimes we don't start with intention. Being crystal clear about your message and being crystal clear about who your audience is. So again, clear about intention, clear about your message, your key messages. What are the 3 points you really want to leave that conversation with, having articulated, or that meeting, or that presentation? 3 points. Key messages don't have to be 3, but when you're over 3, it usually turns into a very long kind of a deal. So again, 3 key points. And your audience, because the content of your discussion may be different depending on who your audience is and why it is that your audience is there. So again, important to know who your audience is. Starting with why, which really is starting with the intention. It makes it so much easier to connect. And when we start with the what and the how, it's so easy to get lost in the details before we really realize that we actually agree in principle. And we just have different ideas about how to get there. And so oftentimes we have to dig very deep to figure out why. Because we sometimes answer the why question with the how or the what, and it's actually not the intention. So why should your audience be interested or care about what you're talking about? How can you accomplish the goal, and what needs to happen? If you can get your brain thinking in that order, then it's amazing what can happen. And this work by Simon Sinek, who wrote the book, It Starts With Why, and has a fantastic TED Talk, and he's such a smart guy, that really changed my thinking. Because what I realized is that when I can actually get people to connect with the intention, I don't have a vague idea sometimes about how it is we're going to get there or what it is we're going to do. But if we can connect, if we can get on the same page about our intention, that makes it way easier to move anything, to change anything, to get anything done. Consistency of message and repetition of message. Again, we all know people who come up with a new idea every 5 minutes, and it's really, really hard to listen to their message and understand it and be impacted by it. Way better to have repetitive messages. And sometimes where leaders fall down is they think because they've said something once that everybody understood it, and everybody understood it in the way in which they had hoped that they would understand it. Repetition is the key to adult learning. Consistency is so important in key messaging and in impactful speaking. So take a look at your key messages, those 3 messages. Now, you don't want to keep repeating and repeating and repeating until people fall asleep or roll their eyes or whatever it is. Figure out different ways to reinforce those same 3 key points. And then your impact and whatever it is that you're trying to change, move, persuade will be that much greater. So key messages. Separation is in the preparation, always. My favorite quarterback, Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks, says that, and I completely agree. Separation is in the preparation. And every single meeting, every single conversation is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to practice and to prepare and to set your intention. Take time beforehand to write down some notes, jot down some things, jot down your key messages, create an agenda, think about what you're going to say. Because not only does that prepare you for the planned opportunities, it also prepares you for the unplanned opportunities. Even the most spontaneous looking speaker, or sounding speaker, I guess, you can't be a spontaneous looking speaker, maybe you can, is prepared. They're prepared in their head. They've thought about it. They've got key messages. They understand their intention. It comes across as spontaneous, but they're not making it up as they go along. So really important to prepare, and not prepare for a specific situation, but generally prepare. Understand why it is, what the intention is, and then be able to articulate that in a variety of settings. And so when something goes awry and it doesn't go as planned, which is pretty well the way life works, you're not thrown off. And you're not in a situation where you're thinking, I didn't prepare for this. Well, yes, you did. Because you've been preparing generally about what your key messages are and your intention so that you can apply it to any circumstance. Taking time to reflect afterwards is really important. What went well? What didn't go well? Where did I fall down? Where should I have used different words? What can I improve? And so oftentimes in our busy worlds, we run from, well, now we don't run. We log on or log off from one Zoom meeting and log on to another. We run. When on earth do we ever have time to actually just reflect and take a step back and say, you know what, that didn't really go that well. Or, hey, I really like the way that worked. Seeking feedback from other people. Did my message get across? What did you hear? How did that resonate with you? Making sure that you get feedback. Again, really important to continue to hone your message. And follow up in writing when appropriate. An email is not a great way to introduce a new idea. Always way better to do that in a conversation. You better believe, though, that an email is very useful in reinforcing or reframing or reiterating whatever the conversation was. Again, repetition key to adult learning. You can't expect that if you've expressed a message once that everybody will understand it in the same way that you do. Confidence. Practice and preparation lead to confidence. So oftentimes people think too much about themselves and not enough about the audience who they're delivering it to. Your goal is to get the stuff out of your head, the ideas, the intention, into somebody else's. And in order to do that, you can't be thinking about yourself. What you have to be thinking about is, how can I persuade? How can I inspire? How can I share with this other person or this group of people? Not yourself. What's the worst thing that can happen? When you practice this stuff, when you speak out loud, when you get your thoughts out, when you've prepared and you've practiced. Actually, it's not too bad. So just give it a whirl. And what I often say is, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes authentic, because practice gives us the courage to be authentic. And the more we are ourselves, the easier it is to be confident, the easier it is to communicate our message, because we believe it. And when we say it, it sounds like it's coming from nobody but us. And that's so important. Don't try to say a message like somebody else would. It never goes well. I can remember lots of times where I tried to be like somebody else, and it just didn't work for me because I wasn't being myself. And that is so true in communicating with an audience. Talk from the heart. Talk about what you believe. Your intention, and understanding your intention, is so important. And getting in touch with that and understanding why it is you come to work every day, why it is you believe so passionately in what it is that you're doing, is key to inspiring, to persuading, to making sure that you can get your message across. And I can't overemphasize that. Be yourself. Be authentic. Just want to touch on a few sort of mechanisms, if you will. Meetings, the magic of meetings. Now, most people consider meetings to be drudgery, but meetings are great opportunities for constructive dialogue that lead to productive solutions. And you have an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. Sometimes it's not fully articulated yet. Sometimes we need to kind of work it through. Sometimes we need to jot down our key messages about what we think about something. But don't apologize for having an opinion. It's actually great that you have an opinion. And it's also great that you're going to listen to other people's perspectives and decide whether your opinion continues to be right in your opinion, or you want to change it. Again, that's the thing. When we can communicate, we can articulate our thoughts, it makes it that much easier. Context. Context is like intention. So when we make assumptions, it doesn't go well. Everyone else may not know as much as you know. They may not care as much as you do. They may not have thought about the subject or the challenge as much as you have. And when we give context to a situation, what it actually does is it grounds us in intention. And when we're grounded in intention, then we're not assuming that everybody else has the same intention. If we need to argue about what the intention is, then let's argue about that in a constructive, productive kind of a way. But set the intention, give context, especially if you're a long way into a project and you forget while you were even doing that project. Context is really important. Let's also talk about the elevator pitch, because that's a spontaneous situation where all of a sudden you're on. Somebody asks you a question, they want to know what you think about something. And so preparation for that is difficult. You can't say, hold the phone there, or hang on, go get yourself a coffee. I'll come back in a few minutes and give you my answer to that question. You got to be able to think on your feet. Again, this is where your key messages are so important. Somebody wants to know why they should donate money to you or what you do. If you've got key messages, if you've thought about that beforehand, that can come off in a very spontaneous, authentic way because you've thought about it. So you need to do some work first in those key messages, in the intention, in establishing the why, before you can do that articulation. The more you practice, the more you get comfortable. So talk to yourself. You might not want to do it in a public place because people might wonder. But when you're driving, when you're walking, when you're in the shower, whatever it is, talk to yourself. Get used to hearing your voice, because that's the way that you will establish confidence. And if you establish that confidence, then it's much easier to articulate what your point is. And the one-to-one conversation, another opportunity to speak publicly. Because there you are having a conversation with one person and making sure, again, that you've got set your intention and that you know exactly why it is that you're having the conversation and what it is that you hope to accomplish from the conversation. If it's a coaching conversation, it's a conversation with one of your staff, then what's really important is that you take the time to prepare for that conversation. So again, preparation, practice, performance, set your intention, start with a why, start with a context, and you'll do just fine at getting your message across in an impactful way. Thanks so much. See you next time.